So welcome to the channel, it's your boy EO here. So why are so many Black Americans, people from the UK, people from other countries around the world moving to Nairobi? Well, today we're going to talk about the reasons that people are moving to Nairobi, especially men coming from the UK, the US, and why you should too. So the first point is that most men want to reconnect with their African roots. So many times I'm seeing so many people from America, from the UK, being unsure of where they come from, because I feel like for so long the media has portrayed Africa as being a bad place to live, and in Africa there's lots of gun violence, and that there's nothing to do in Africa. Africa is the slums, Africa is, poor, but that is wrong. Like, I completely understand why most men in the UK, the US are gonna feel lost, because they feel like they don't really belong, and they feel like the places where they are from, the media is portraying and giving it a bad light. For example, when my parents came from Nigeria to the UK, I was born. So I was born in the UK. I wouldn't say ever since I was born, but I would say from an early age, I've just kind of felt that, loneliness and that feeling that I wasn't really wanted in the UK. Like, I felt like I wasn't really connected with other people. When I went to uni outside of London, because London is a black area, but then as I went out of London, I start to see I started to see that there wasn't a lot of black people and Africans outside of London. It was more of white people and Caucasian people living there. So I felt kind of disconnected, and this actually made me realize that, oh my days, the UK is not really what it seems. So then I was like, okay, cool. Let me take a trip to Kenya and see what it's gonna be like. So I took a trip to Nairobi, and instantly I saw Nairobi and I was like, wow, the food was nice, you know, it had lots of spices to it. It was, you know, the way people were dressing were like the UK. It was like the UK, but it was a bit different, like especially outside of Nairobi, you're gonna see people wearing more of the traditional clothing and, traditional attire. And that's why Black Americans and people from UK are moving to Nairobi to kind of get a feel of that culture, of that African culture, because I feel like in the UK, they try to hide it. It's like if you're African, it's kind of a bad thing, you know? We've seen it with all these people that are Africans and they call themselves mixed race. They try to, make themselves look as if they're mixed race. They try to change their color. They try to, bleach their skin to make it seem as if, they want to be mixed race, that they're not happy with their own skin. We've seen that in many places in the US, the UK. It happens everywhere. It even happens in Africa as well. But people don't really talk about it, which links to the second point, that most men from the UK, the US are moving to Nairobi because Nairobi has a similar infrastructure to countries of the West, such as the UK, the US. Some of the buildings in Nairobi are really developed. Like, if you go to some cafes, some restaurants in Nairobi, you would see that the way they've designed the place is really nice, that are appealing to the eye. So yeah, when you go there, you would be shocked, Before I came to Africa, specifically Nairobi, Kenya, I thought that Nairobi didn't have that much development in terms of infrastructure. I thought that, yeah, you're probably gonna see a lot of dirty roads, people, sleeping on the streets, but that wasn't the case. Even the gyms I went to, some of the gyms in Nairobi were so much better than the commercial gyms that I went to in the UK. And what's also good about Nairobi is that they're actually building new cities, such as, for example, Tattoo City. Tattoo City was another city that I went to. It was still quite developing, but it has a long way to go. But I'm telling you now, in the next 10 years, that city is going to be developed. Like, they've already started building restaurants there and hotels and housing. So men are now thinking that, okay, if I'm living in a city that has, very good infrastructure, very good gyms, nice restaurants, then I can kind of live the similar lifestyle I was living in the UK, the US, but I can live in Nairobi at a lower cost because most of the restaurants you go to are probably going to be cheap. Because if you're coming from the UK, the US, let's say you have a business and you're earning in dollars and pounds. When you come to Kenya, in Nairobi, you're gonna get a lot more for your money, meaning that you would probably be able to get like 2 plates of rice and chicken and it will fill you up for the whole day. And that can be as cheap as what, £10, $12. So that is one of the reasons why men from the UK, the US are moving to Nairobi. Finally, most men from UK, the US move to Nairobi, Kenya to experience a different dating culture. Most men from these countries want to know what it's like to date a woman who is more traditional, who is more respectful, and who is also more family orientated. Men from the UK, the US are leaving to escape the feeling of not being wanted and respected by women. We've seen this in the US. For example, I was watching this live on YouTube, and this man just wanted to ask, for directions to go to a place. And this woman was just saying, F you, and she walked away. This is what men in the US, the UK have to deal with on a daily basis. They have to, how do I say this? They have to deal with women that don't value men that are working on themselves, that would rather date a man that doesn't really care about themselves and perceive themselves as low value. Men that are drug dealers, men that are going to jail. I'm not saying every woman is like that. Obviously, you've got women that actually care about men and want to date men that are working on themselves. So obviously, you have that everywhere you go. Men from the UK, the US also perceive women in Kenya to be naturally attractive. For example, when I was in Kenya, right, you would just be seeing women walking around the streets with naturally curvy bodies, naturally built bodies, and some of these women don't even go gym. Whereas in the UK, yeah, a chick has to go to the gym to have a nice body. They have to eat healthy. But for some reason, I don't know what these Kenyan women be eating. Maybe they're eating too much ugali. I don't know what they're eating. Even the women that are 50 years old have better bodies than some of the women in the UK that are my age. I'm being for real. Oh my days. Oh my days. So guys, if you like this video and you have anything to say, make sure to leave a comment down below in the comments. And also make sure to like the video and subscribe. Peace.